Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Economic Development Committee will be conducted by remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at www.southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate, the meeting may do so in the following manner by finding it at www.southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite our best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive records of the proceeding as soon as possible after the meeting. Again, thank you everybody for being here. So the meeting's been called to order at 7:02. First thing on our agenda is the downtown village business village district. I even called the wrong thing. Julie, I will let you take over on that part.
So yeah, you know, I don't know that there's too much more to report. We have our big meeting coming up. We had a meeting, was it last week? It must have been last week or 2 weeks ago. I don't remember. With the planning board and the board of selectmen to kind of go, the intent of the meeting was to go through the Judy's draft after Judy, you know, after all the committees had had a chance to take a look at it. What ended up happening, unfortunately, was that Judy Barrett was not able to attend that meeting. And so Marty Healy wanted to thought it was important that she was in attendance at that meeting. So he didn't want to get too into the weeds. So there was definitely some discussion, but most of it was, we went through a lot of the comments that were submitted by the various boards and committees, and as well as some individual members. So like planning board submitted comments, ShopSeek submitted comments. There were some comments submitted from Ryan from the library, just a few other various people in town. But we didn't get into a ton of detail on exactly, you know, that was sort of, you know, by design, because Marty didn't want to get into a great detail without Judy being able to be there to explain why she did certain things that she did. So for example, I know that, you know, one of the points that came up a few times was that, you know, a few people commented that they thought 4 stories of building height was too much. And they wanted 2 or 3 instead. So those are the kind of things that are going to be, let me pull up my notes from that meeting, that are kind of be up for debate. You know, those are things that we want to have Judy's input. So we're having a meeting with Judy on Tuesday of next week, the 24th. So right before the Thanksgiving holiday. So hopefully you guys can all be there, and you know, hopefully you've had a chance to look at some of the other committee's notes and digest them and be ready for your comments as well. But I think, you know, that's where we're going to tackle some of the bigger issues. So yeah, that's kind of the summary. It was, you know, I think the meeting wasn't what we originally intended it to be. But I think this next meeting is going to be that more deep dive into some of the comments and some of the whys about, you know, why we want, why Judy inserted certain standards or you know, provisions in there. There was some, I'm trying to find my notes on it, but there were some general comments about things like green space and how we make sure that that's built in, because that was sort of written into the mission statement, but not necessarily mentioned a lot within the individual guidelines. And I'm not sure that there's how that's done in other places to ensure that, if that's something that's more in the design guidelines, or if it's sort of an overarching theme, or if there are specific roles we can put into place to make that come to fruition. So I think there's definitely, you know, plenty of stuff that we're going to still have to talk about. on Tuesday. Trying to think.
Judy sent out the new version. I saw.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So that's been circulated. So yeah. So thank you, John. So everyone should take a look at that as well. Haven't done a deep dive into it yet. Unfortunately, I've not had time this week. Let me pull it up. But yes, that has been circulated.
I'm sorry. So did everybody receive it? Judy sent out, Mark Purple
Yeah.
sent out for everybody Judy's comments on
Yeah.
the matrix as well as the latest draft. Does everybody have it? If not, I'll make sure it goes out tonight. I don't know if anybody's had time to see it
It
yet.
went to all board and committee members, and yeah, it came on Tuesday evening, so 2 days ago.
Yeah, I thought she did a pretty good job answering most of the questions on it, on the matrix, and then the latest version. So if everybody could make sure to try to take a look at it before, be prepared for the 24th, that would be awesome. I don't want to get too much into it, but tonight I don't think, but unless anybody wants
Yeah,
to.
I'm not prepared to do. Yeah, I'm not super prepared to do a deep dive into it. I just haven't had time to do to really look at it yet.
Yeah, we'll be going more into it on the 24th with selectmen as well, but.
Yeah. The other piece I wanted to talk about, without talking about, but just mentioning, is that Marika sent around a draft of design guidelines too. I don't think it's our intent to cover that on the 24th, but it's certainly something that we envision would kind of go hand in hand with the zoning bylaw changes. So, so if we can, start to take a look at that as well. Again, unfortunately, I just have not had time in the last couple of days to dig into it. But Marika, if you want to talk about that a little bit, that'd be great if you're up for that.
That's next, because we did send that out with that for discussion and possible vote to send that out.
No, I'm sorry. I just the last couple of days have just been
A blur, I bet. I can only imagine.
And I was on 3 hours of Zooms last night. So I did, just to add that sort of, this might not be the right time to bring it up, but I was on the master plan committee meeting last night as well. And I do get the sense, and I'm going to be following up with one of the members about how define this sort of sense of community feeling that we're trying. That's one of the objectives of the master plan, and how that kind of ties into the downtown. But they're, from all the background work that they've done, and from all the survey they put out and everything, the feedback that they're getting is that people are in support of fixing up the downtown, and they seem to recognize as a committee that that certain things like zoning are part of that. So I found that encouraging. We're going to be working on that more, but unsurprisingly, their survey was aligned with our survey, which was aligned with the previous master plans research. So, but they seem to recognize that is an important part, and it's something that's scored consistently high with something that people are interested in seeing get done. That and the community pool were kind of some of the top things. So, so people are definitely interested in seeing something downtown. So I found that encouraging from the master plan committee.
That's excellent. That's good news. Anybody have any questions on what's been going on with the downtown bylaw? All right. Is that all you have on that one, Julie? Then?
Yeah, I think so. Again, I mean, if people want to dig into it more, I can pull. I have it on my screen. I can go through it real quick, but I have not gone through it with a fine tooth comb.
Yeah. Again, we will be on Tuesday going through it much deeper with the selectmen and all that. So if anybody doesn't have anything further on the status of the downtown village district, I think just to conclude, wasn't today the last day to submit, wasn't the 18th, the comments, it was the last day that was open for comments from Lisa, and she was gonna put any more in before then. So, hey, Suzanne,
Hi.
how are you? Okay, moving on. Downtown, we're gonna discuss and possible vote on the draft design guidelines. And I hope everybody had a chance to even quickly look at what Marika put together for that. I did, and it was actually an excellent job, Marika. Now, I'm assuming that we're looking at this to vote on sending out to other committees for them to review and take a look at as well and get input on. Is that correct? What you're thinking, Marika?
Yeah, so this is just a first draft, and it's just to, I guess the purpose for us to vote on it would be to send it out to especially maybe historic commission to have a look at. I added like a whole list of historic, I guess, buildings that they had put together, and this was like a year ago when I had a meeting with historic commission. Just for them to have a look at it, just for us to have a physical document, because it keeps getting mentioned right now that we need like separate design guidelines for us to, you know, if a developer wants to come into downtown and make an investment, to sit down with them before site plan review and kind of make them understand what is required or what we would want to have in downtown. And these are kind of like the subjective you know, the wish list that we had, that we, together with Adam Costa, said we can't have in a bylaw because it's, you know, it's kind of a, you know, it's not like a performance standard. So I looked at other towns. They all, you know, there's a lot of information out there. So that's where I got this thing from. There are a lot of other type of design guidelines which are much more detailed about, you know, how big your windows have to be with exact measurements and awnings and signage. I'm not sure if you want to go that way. You know, we're trying to make things a little bit easier, not more complicated. But I thought this was just the first step, and the vote is just to send it out to other commissions for them to have a look at and give their feedback.
Yeah, and first of all, thank you, Marika, for actually doing this, because you're right, it's something that we've been kind of talking about as something that'll happen eventually for a while. So I appreciate you putting pen to paper and giving us a product to look at. And I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to look at it yet.
Yeah,
I think it raises a couple of questions, which not that we need to answer all of them right this minute, but one is, you know, I think this is a really important document, and I think it's important to have it separate from the bylaws for a lot of reasons. One being that, you know, theoretically the bylaws are really difficult to change, and the bylaws should be sort of the foundation that's going to carry us forward for maybe, you know, the next 50 years or whatever, whereas styles and, you know, might change a little bit more frequently, and we want some kind of document that's maybe slightly easier to amend or modify as needed, you know, as things change. So I think that's important. I also think that I'm a little worried. We've got a lot of great momentum on the bylaw right now. I'm wondering if, one, does it make sense to try to not have that, you know, and I'm just kind of talking out loud, feel free to tell me why I'm wrong. But does it make sense to kind of tackle that first, or at least wait till after this meeting to see, you know, where we get on that before presenting a new thing? And the other big overarching question is who owns the design standards? Like who said, you know, like who says yay or nay? Like we know with the zoning bylaw, you know, that there's that the boards and committees that are in charge of that, right? But who owns the design guidelines? Is that the planning board? Can they say no, this doesn't satisfy the design guidelines? Or is there a separate body? I know we've talked about some towns set up a separate sort of governing design review committee or something like that to oversee both the you know, compliance with the design guidelines. So I don't know that we need to solve all those things, but I think we need to maybe just think about them a little bit before we distribute, maybe.
Yeah, the only reason I came out, so I think it's the latter, to have like a separate design guideline board, and of course there can be someone on there from the planning board and someone from historic, and
Yeah.
maybe people who have an idea about that. I think the reason I came out, or I send it out now, and I feel it's kind of, I understand, we don't want to overwhelm people with too many different documents, right? We want to get the zoning done, but a lot of people are raising concerns about how do you make sure that you get what you want down there, and how do you ensure that you have the correct, the type of buildings that go in downtown. So we have started talking about design guidelines. I think even Judy Barrett brought it up in some of the questions that should go separate. So it's just kind of like a first document, and I'm not sure what would be the best timing. Maybe we should wait till after the next meeting when our draft is a little bit more firmed up. But I don't want, the reason is I don't want the bylaw to stall because we don't have design guidelines.
Yeah,
Better
no,
to be proactive than reactive when people are asking.
too. Right, we get to town meeting or close to town meeting and people say, well, I don't know what this means because we don't have design guidelines. I get that too.
Yeah.
But I also think we have to be aware that if a developer is coming forward and they see that they have to go through not only the planning board, but also a design guideline board, they might view that as another board and another step, and it doesn't really streamline the process. So if we had to think about who was going to be enforcing this, and whether or not it's even enforceable, I think we have to know about that going forward.
Well, if I understand correctly, the design guidelines are not binding. Whatever's in the bylaw is binding, but even Adam Costa said that developers are usually very keen on creating something or developing something that the town also wants. It's not as if they want to, they're constantly going against the town. So it's just kind of like a pre-meeting that you can have and say, look, you want to do something in the downtown, and we have a historic downtown, and it's very important for us that it has these kind of these are the guidelines, and if you can adhere to it, we would appreciate that. So I don't think design guidelines are not meant to be binding.
Right, but if it's one of those things that our planning director or economic development director can say, hey, listen, here are the guidelines. If you follow them as well as possible, the planning board would be more amenable to, following and actually supporting the zoning. It's like, I hate to say it, quid pro quo type of thing. You follow these guidelines and it's going to make the planning board process easier. So getting the planning board to offer their input onto the design guidelines, I think is probably early in the process would be really beneficial for us.
Agreed. Did anybody have a chance to look at it besides me yet?
Very
I flipped
briefly.
through here.
So I thought it was pretty good. My only question in regards to planning, Marika, on your section 6 with lighting, I know that the planning board is very specific on what that, I think they were trying to get their lighting bylaw through and different things like that. So is this in following, like, reflective of where they're trying to be on the style and guidelines and on the on what their views are?
I haven't, I'll have to talk to Sarah. I haven't really compared the two, but I think in the design guidelines, it's a very general, quite general, and the bylaw is very specific in terms of, the type of lighting and the bulbs and the strength and I think in the design guidelines, I don't have it with me, it's just basically the style of lighting that it fits in. You don't want neon lights and all that stuff.
Okay, I was just curious.
yeah,
That was my only question I had on it.
Yeah, but in the end, the bylaw overrules anything in the design guidelines. But I think that's why it is, just like Rob said, it's crucial that the planning board has a look at it and sees, see if this is something that they would want to have, or if it's something else. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's worth sending off to them to at least look at it. Or personally, I think it's worth having them look at it sooner than later, because if it's not something they want to do, fine. But if it is something they say, oh, so this is kind of good. We like some of this, not all of this. It's something that when people ask the question about style guidelines, as they did, we can say, well, we're already working in it. We're not behind the 8 ball. That's
Yeah, I think that's a good message too. Like, oh yeah, it's. So do we think we want to share it sooner? I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't want to hold off too long, but I just don't want it to clutter the momentum we have with the bylaw either. So
we
I
had
don't
it
know.
posted on the meeting, so people were asking what the draft
That's
guidelines were. So we've actually sent it. Mimi Luttrell had asked for a copy of it, and I
Okay.
know that Marika sent Claire and Lisa
Lisa.
a copy of it as well for review.
Okay. Yeah, and
But
there's certainly
should
no
I
harm
send
in-
it like officially to all the committees? I mean, I'm thinking especially historic. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
I
do.
mean, I think at this point, you're right. It's already posted, it's already public. So let's just share it. And, I think maybe we just don't plan to, because well, nothing's going to happen right this second anyway, because we've got the bylaw meeting coming up on Tuesday. Then we've got the holiday, we've got Thanksgiving. So no one's really going to be focused on this probably for another couple, until after Thanksgiving break anyway.
But it gives them a
But-
chance to look at it and
Exactly. It gives people time. Yeah, I know, I agree.
start digesting it and think, oh, at least I'd rather be proactive than reactive on any of this
No,
stuff.
yeah, you're totally right.
And
Everybody has to understand that it's a part of the puzzle, right? It fits into the bylaws.
that this is
have to go
just
along with it.
this is a draft piece of another draft of a puzzle, so that it's very early stages as well. I think they need to know. But so do we want to wait till after the meeting and send it off to people? Do we want to take a vote to send it off as written for review? I think I read it. I thought she did a pretty good job on it. I'm okay with sending it off as written for people's review for the different committees, especially historic, because you really did a good piece on that, Marika. And, I think that was very helpful.
So just so, Marika, you said you just, did research on other similar sized towns and committees and pulled it from there. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I agree. You know what? It's a working draft. You can even preface it with, we haven't done a deep dive into it yet, but this is, along the parameters of what we've seen in other towns. And this is kind of what we're thinking, and let's start getting feedback. We got to start somewhere. So I think that's great. Thank you again for doing it. It's an important step.
Do we want to send it off to planning and the selectmen first for their review to see if they want to send it off to other committees? Or do we want to just send it to everybody? Is my question.
What if,
The way-
what if you send it to everyone now and just give people a chance to chime in? Like-
Well, yeah, my only thought, and I see both, except for that, our thing has been like, we want Board of Selectmen, they're the kind of ones leading this. We're just helping and supporting it. I don't know. Does it look, is it more proper to send it to them first? I don't know. But again, it's a public document already anyway, so it shouldn't matter.
Yeah. Sam just put a thing, how about putting a discussion draft watermark on it before we send it to some committees? It becomes a public document, so I'd send it to all. Yeah, that makes sense. Sam, can you, I'd like to hear what he has to say on this, actually. Marika, can you promote him?
Yeah, I'll allow him to talk.
Please? Sam, you should be able to speak now. Well, not that you couldn't speak before, but we can hear you.
Okay.
Hey, Sam, thank you for being here. What were you saying about the draft watermark on it? I like that idea.
Put the form as a document. If it's Word or PDF, you can put a discussion draft watermark, faint text, big diagonal discussion draft on it, just to reinforce that it's a draft for discussion. Even though you might type that in the page header or something, it still is much more obvious if you put a big watermark on it.
It has it now, just says draft all through every
Big one
page.
across it.
Okay, yeah, that's good enough then. I
Who-
haven't seen it, so.
In your opinion, do you think we should send it to everybody or planning and selectmen first?
Again, I speak only for myself. I would send it to everybody. I mean,
Yeah, it's
Send it to
public
everybody.
document already.
you get risk criticism from, wait a minute, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
People are sensitive about that already, so.
I agree.
And if you
And-
think it's in decent shape, which it sounds like, why not get people thinking about it?
Well, in my novice opinion, it's in great shape. I think you did a phenomenal job. I liked it.
And I think, I mean, John, if I may, it's the purpose is to just because we have referred to it, so at least people know that I want to avoid the idea that they're talking about design guidelines, but that's something completely different. We haven't thought about that yet. Just to show people that we actually have something decent already in place, which can be adjusted. I think that would probably help, and maybe make people feel more comfortable about what we're doing for the zoning part.
I agree.
Hey, John,
Yes, sir.
another thing you might consider is sending out a red line of the version 3 versus version 2. Judy's work.
I didn't know if that was in our purview or if that's something the selectmen should do.
Yeah, I don't either, but somebody I think ought to send that out just so people
Ask
can see it.
Lisa. if
Yeah,
she's
I
okay with
agree.
it.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to do. You can do a red line in Acrobat.
Yeah,
Just because if memory serves, that was one of the issues with Zach, wasn't it, Sam? Where people couldn't figure out the red line of what was changed from all the different.
Yeah, that's the first thing I do is look for a red line. And I
Yeah.
discovered that Judy didn't answer my question, so I have fodder for conversation on Tuesday.
So,
yeah, I know. I think that's a really good. Yeah, I'll email. I'll ask Lisa what she thinks about that.
And I don't know, is it maybe an idea for Judy, whenever she makes changes in the newer drafts, to just kind of put it in a different color so people actually know what, instead of trying to compare and go through the whole 2 documents again, to kind of see, immediately see what has changed.
Sure, she could easily create a red line in Word. And,
Yeah.
and frankly, I find it a little annoying that she keeps sending these PDF versions out. She ought to be sending Word documents out so it's easier for people to take notes and stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
actually, maybe I'll just, it's probably actually easiest for me to just ask Judy to see,
Yeah.
since she's got the Word, instead of
You
having
can
to
do it.
convert, just asking her to send a red line.
But again,
So she can do that.
if you got Adobe Acrobat Pro, it's 10 seconds to do a compare document, just like in Word. So any way one does it, I
I've
think.
never redlined it.
Excuse me?
I've never redlined a PDF. I'm used to redlining Word documents.
Yeah.
I've never redlined as a PDF.
You can't do it with the Acrobat Reader, but if you have Acrobat Pro or one of the other third-party things, it's easy to do. But, the issue for me is that the more easy you can make it for people to see what has been changed,
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
better the communication about the process. I
I'm
think.
actually just gonna email Judy right now and ask her that, because I think that's an easy one to
Sure,
get.
she can do that very, very easily.
all right, so getting back to the draft design guidelines and sending them out. Do I have a motion to send them out to all committees and boards as written for review with the draft watermark, the discussion draft for discussion watermark? That was a tough one to say tonight. I sat for 2 hours in a meeting last night in my car on a Zoom meeting on the side of the road. So this is, at least I'm comfy in my house tonight. So this is better, but it's already been a long week. So,
I'll make that motion.
all right. Motion, do we have a second?
Second,
All right, got to do roll call vote. I'm going to start with how I see it on here. Mr. Anderson,
Rob Anderson, yes.
Suzanne,
yes.
Julie.
Yeah.
Michael.
Yes.
And myself, John, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Awesome. All right, so that's one part. Then we are flying through tonight. Thank you for that, people. And then you'll try to get a red line document out as well. So that's great. And then next on the agenda is vote on the information packet for residents, businesses, and abutters. This is pretty much the same information packet that we've had from the get-go, correct, Marika, that we started
Yes. So
long
that
ago? And to bring
basically it started as a working plan. Then we created a presentation form from the working plan. And I guess throughout the year, we kind of kept, updating it. And now I've put that information back into a kind of a PDF portrait document. So I was thinking we could print it out and basically deliver it to all residents and businesses, so they are informed. I mean, I've had people come to me and say that, I want to, what's happening, and are you going to send me some information? And I think it would be helpful if they get the information sooner rather than later, so they know, for instance, that we have a meeting on the 24th, and if they wanted to, attend or at least listen in, they have that opportunity.
So are you talking about all residents or just residents in the downtown business village district?
Just residents and businesses in the downtown business district, and maybe abutters. I mean, we can decide that, who we want to send it out to.
I definitely sent to the abutters as well, because, they've got just as much stake in it as the people in the district. In my personal opinion, I think it would be a good idea to send.
How
to
would we
the
distribute
abutters.
it?
Sorry?
Sorry, Jen.
She's saying,
How would
how
we
could we
distribute it?
distribute it?
We'll go door to door.
Yeah, if we need to, and hand them, put them in their mailboxes.
Yeah.
If we can put them, I don't think you can
Yeah,
actually put them
I
in
love
mailboxes.
this. Can we?
I don't think you're allowed to put it in the mailbox. You can't open a mailbox, but I would just hand it to them, and maybe they'll have questions. I don't know, put it on their doorknobs. But at least, because I feel a lot of times people, we get the remarks that they weren't aware, they didn't have the information, and I know sometimes it's hard to find it on the website. So I think it's really important for them to be informed in time, so they have a feeling that and they have an opportunity to weigh in.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think the whole NIMBY thing, you have to hit the abutters, because they're going to be just as affected, if not more, because they're looking into the district as opposed to, actually being in there.
I agree. Does anybody have time that they could help out delivering some of these to the neighborhoods? Or
I wish I could. There's just no way to like not even.
yeah, just thought I'd ask.
No.
Girl Scouts, maybe? While they're selling
Right?
cookies.
I know I love this so much. I love this presentation, and I think it's so important to keep the neighbors and the butters and the businesses involved. And I think if we look back at the forums that we had, the most successful ones were the ones that we were actually able to reach a lot of people with, when John put together, printed up all those little cards and put them in people's mailboxes, or mailed them to people that put them in. And it made a big impact. It's just it's an important way to reach people. So I love this, and thank you for doing it, Marika, because I think it's
only
awesome.
question is that question is, how much information do you want us to distribute? Because right now it's kind of the presentation, and then as an appendix it would be the draft bylaw that Judy has submitted, and a copy of the draft design guidelines. So it's a lot of paper. So I just wanted to get feedback how we feel about that.
I don't know. I mean, because it's in such draft form, I mean, especially the design guidelines, I don't know if I don't know if we want to, like, one, it's just a lot of paper, right? Because if we have that, it's going to be a 50-page packet, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of printing and a lot of, paper.
Yeah, I mean, I might just do it, double-sided and ask QuickPrint to do it, make
And then
100
maybe-
copies, and we can.
You could do it in black and white as well. It doesn't need to be a color copy. That's
true.
purely informational as a draft too, if we're trying to save some money. But yeah, I think we should definitely have it double-sided with quick print. do I think we need to have, maybe we could take out some of the images from like what it was, what it could be, all that stuff, if we
No,
need to
these are the
scale.
best. That's the
No, I
best
think that's
stuff.
the, I was
No.
gonna say.
That's the best
I mean,
stuff.
if people don't, yeah,
Yep.
even if people don't read it, they'll see it. So,
Okay,
you know,
okay,
And
I take that back.
honestly, I think those pictures need to be in color, and I hate to be a pain in the butt, but they're
yeah,
so impactful.
Okay.
The pictures, there's like the then, the now, the future. I think that's the best part. That's what captures people's attention. And maybe, if we're worried about size and everything, maybe we just direct, put the rest on, put the rest on the website, put, at the last page,
Link.
say to review the latest draft, because the zoning bylaws in such a draft, and it's going to be changing. This is not it, it's going to be changing by the, 2 days after they get it. So maybe, direct them to the website for the latest version, working draft of the zoning bylaw or the design guidelines. I mean, design guidelines
Yeah.
are certainly done. No one's even seen them yet,
It's only
So maybe
28
could
pages,
we-
right?
could
You
we
could-
leave the
sorry.
design guidelines out and then maybe have, but do include like the latest draft bylaw and then direct them for, that this is still a working copy for the latest version. We can put the, and same for design guidelines. If they want to have a look at that, we can put them online and direct them there.
Yeah, I would just put, I don't know, maybe just put them both online. It's up to you. I mean, I don't feel super
put-
strongly either way. I'm just thinking like, who's going to read a 50-page packet?
No, but
So
I think the bylaw is what everyone wants to see. Right.
I would do definitely the draft of the bylaw. I'm just thinking about, I just did the pages and being the cheapskate that I am and how much this would cost and yada, yada, yada to do color. So if you do it double-sided with just a cheap corner staple, in color, right now, it's only, the document itself is 28 pages. So you're talking 14 sheets of paper, even on an 8.5, 11. And we could even talk, I can give you some specs that we could have them quote out. And I would do the packet we have for the proposed zoning change. And then I would definitely in the appendix, I would have the latest draft of the bylaw, just so they can see what it is. I don't know if I put all of the design guidelines, but I tell them if it's available online, and if they want a copy of it, that they can request it, and we'll send it off. But let them know that is a very, very, very rough draft that we're working on, because that I got a feeling is going to morph into something, a whole other entity later on that we're going to be looking for more input from the town at another meeting before town meeting, after we get the zoning law bylaw in place.
My concern about totally, and obviously it's public information, but the design guidelines are such a preliminary draft. If there's something in there that somebody doesn't like, I don't want somebody to latch on to one thing and say, oh, EDC is trying to, do X, Y, or Z, when it's just like one line in a preliminary draft, and then all of a sudden it's, a kerfuffle.
Yeah, I think I agree. I wouldn't put the design guidelines in, but I think we have to have the bylaws because people are going to care most about it. Do we also want to have a call to action, such as submit your comments, give us a call, let us know what you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I spoke to Chris and he gave me some feedback because he couldn't be here this evening. So one of the things he also brought up was on the first page, put your contact details and then ask them if they have any questions, that any comments are welcome, and also clearly state the next date of the meeting, Board of Selectmen meeting, and that they're welcome to attend. So I think that's a very good point. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Do we have any other thoughts or ideas on that?
No, I think that's great. And yeah, if you can pull that off or kind of short on time, I think it's wonderful if we can get it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a quick, easy print. How many residences do you think there are that are abutters? Maybe 50? 100?
I'll print out more though, because we can pass it out to Rotary Club, other people who are.
Yeah. I'm just curious how many we got to walk around and knock on doors to.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to double check. I won't want to volunteer figure right now, but yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely think we should make some and have some extras for that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And so what we're gonna have is the proposed changes packet that Marika put together, and then put the latest draft bylaw with a call to action in the back of it. That we all in agreement on that. Anything else anybody else thinks we should add to it? And I'm gonna hit Mr. Cybers up again for that, as well as Ms. Latrell in the audience, if they have any thoughts on what we should have in this, sending out to the businesses and butters and residents. Nothing? Okay. Do I have a motion to send it out? And get it printed as such?
Yeah, so moved. Marika, I know, I'm sure you're aware of this, but there's one page on there that says Claire to fill in timeline or something like that.
Yeah, I know there are some things that I need to add, which I will, yes. Maybe I'll send out the final version for you guys to have a look at maybe
Okay.
tomorrow.
Then will we have to vote on the final version again?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if basically we discussed the changes, we decided we won't put in the draft design guidelines, and I guess I will just address all the edits that are mentioned in the document.
Okay, I just want procedure to make sure, again, that we do what we need
Yeah.
to do. So I think we're covered that way.
Yeah, and okay.
All right, so we have a motion, it's been seconded. Go roll call vote. As I said again, sorry, my dogs are barking. Go away, please. Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Duca,
Yes.
Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Moorhead?
Yes.
And myself, aye. Claire's in the audience too. I don't know if she has any comments on that as well. So it passes unanimously. I guess we could take Claire's comment if she has any for that right now. Anything, Claire?
What agreements have to be secured from the Board of Selectmen, if any, that is so needed? I don't count. She doesn't count. Claire.
I was just looking for your input, not as a vote, Claire. You'd always count. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My only concern is that since it technically is the selectmen's article, I think it's a fabulous idea, and the work that Marika has done with putting together these design standards, it goes right along with what's going to be needed, because there's several references in the current draft zoning to design standards. My concern is that
We've already moved beyond, we're not on the design standards anymore. This is for the packet to the residents around and the butters, explaining what it is about. We're not including the design guidelines.
right. Okay. So the only thing is that it just has to. I guess it's what you're doing is the step that's necessary then to give your approval to the Board of Selectmen. Am I correct on that?
No, we put together, what we're looking to do is Marika put up the
I'm very familiar
timeline.
with what.
Yeah, and we're
no,
just
no,
going to
no,
be giving that to the residents and printing them out and bringing them around.
Okay, so that brings me back to exactly what I said. Is there another layer of approval that's necessary? And I think the package is great, and I looked at it before this meeting, what Marika had put together, and it's fabulous. My question is.
Sam had a good point he just put out that he'd coordinate with Lisa. So Julie, do you want to check with Lisa tomorrow and just see what she thinks?
I do.
And that way we can hopefully she'll get back quick enough, and then we can figure out whether we can do it. We can at least get the pricing on it and stuff and start and reach out and
Yeah, 'cause
ready
we're on a
for it.
pretty quick time turnaround here.
Yeah, but I somewhat feel like this is educational, and what we're actually doing with the call to action is letting people know about the Board of Selectmen meeting and some of those things that would be discussed. So we're not doing, the advocacy comes through the education as opposed to voting one way or the other. So I feel like we're just doing our due diligence to get as much feedback from the people to offer their opinions to the Board of Selectmen, which theoretically they should appreciate, so that more residents are actively engaged in, public discourse. So having to check with them for education seems a step too many.
Mm, I hear what you're saying, but I think it doesn't hurt to do it. And also, we've been kind of saying, like, we've been wanting them to lead the charge. So I agree with you. I don't think we have to. I think it would be nice to say, hey, this is our plan. Do you have any thoughts on that? Just to, it's not, just to explain what we're doing and why and how you can participate. I don't know.
Yeah, I reach out tomorrow and just see if she has any strong feelings against it. And if she does, I don't think she will, but if she does, let me know.
Yeah, because I think, and important, because I understand maybe they'll say, oh, we'll have to vote on it or whatever, but it's also important that we get this out. Hopefully, we'll be able to do it before the meeting. That's the whole purpose too, right?
Yeah.
I don't want the residents to feel like, oh, we finally got this information, but it's all already set in stone. What's the point, right? I mean, the 24th would be a great opportunity for people to tune in. So, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I'll reaching out to Lisa.
All right, and then let us know, and then Marika, we can
Yeah, I'll continue.
get pricing on it and edit what we had, the amendments, and then if there's no objections from the selectmen, we talk to Quick Print and give them some options. I'll type up some options and email you tonight on how to quote it with them for what I think will be the cheapest, best way. That will be in color.
Mhm.
So anyway, anything else on that? Okay, so moving on to, so we're gonna further chair report. So tomorrow, let's see, on Monday, I'm meeting with the Capital Committee at 7:30, if anybody wants to come. We're gonna be discussing Route 9 issues like with water and wastewater and sewerage. And what we think some of the problems there are and what they think the problems on Route 9 are, maybe how we can help each other out moving forward, larger scale on resolving some of those. On the 2nd, I'm meeting with
Sorry,
advisory.
quick note on as a side note to that, I should send you an article. There's a big there was a big announcement this week somewhere, I think coming out on 495. There's a big development that's all on septic. And somebody just signed a big lease out there.
Do you know what town?
I need to dig it. But it's good news in terms of it being septic and not sewerage. Sorry. Yes, septic, not sewerage. And the potential for development. So it's in the region. I'm blanking right now because it's been a really long week. But I will find it and share it because it's a good story about, development. Let's put it that way. And the potential.
Yeah, if you could send it to me, I'd appreciate it. Anybody has any information they know of on the problems besides the water and septic and traffic things on Route 9 and any documents from before that we've talked about, if you can send that to me, I'd be very happy to look at that and have it before Monday. December 2nd, I'm meeting with advisory on our budget. We'll see how that goes. Suzanne sent an article out about TIFs and Olympus and stuff, which I read, which I forwarded off to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and then some other things in regards to that as well. It was a great article. I do want to put TIFs on our agenda moving forward to see if anybody would be interested in talking about that later on a different meeting, and whether we want to recommend that or have a position on tax incentives for business.
We, can I offer an opinion right now?
Please.
Definitely should be, and it should, and we should be supporting it 100%.
What's funny is what I sent Marty, and as well as I'm going to put it on another agenda. I sent Westboro their TIF agreement. I sent everyone around us on Route 9. Framingham offers tax incentives. Marlboro offers tax incentives. Westboro offers tax incentives. And that's where we're getting killed. So, I'm sure there's pros and cons of it, which it definitely deserves more of an in-depth conversation that I don't have on the agenda for tonight. But I think that it is definitely a discussion that we need to have moving forward, and that the selectmen should look at and figure out what they want. Some of the towns around us that offer the TIFs, what's funny is that I looked into, they may have a split tax rate, and everybody's like, oh, you can't have a split tax rate. But then by the time everything's said and done and the TIFs are in it, they're lower than the residential rate. So I think having the single rate, and then it looks like they're just doing, like, the buildings are still getting taxed the same. It's just the real property tax that hits them, and it's incremental and such. So
just as a, when I worked for the state at the state's Office of Business Development, I, for the Metro West, ran the TIF program, EDIP. So I've got all of that background knowledge and can quote chapter and verse on everything, the benefits, and those things that kind of make it beneficial to the community. So can definitely on that.
I think we need to start thinking outside of the box and be more
I agree.
proactive than reactive. Right now, we have 23% vacancy rates. Suzanne has said that they're expecting footprints to shrink by 40 to 60% in the
It's
next
gonna
year
get
or
ugly.
two. So if we're already at a vacancy rate of 23%, then we shrink that much. We need to be much more competitive on Route 9 than some of these other towns. I'd like to keep the business we have and get more in, along Route 9, to keep the vacancy rate. I can't even believe I'm saying I'd be happy if we could maintain the vacancy rate at 25% moving forward, because I think it's going to be really scary in a lot of places really soon, my personal opinion. So I think.
And quite honestly, the way the Massachusetts Tax Incentive Program is set up, the community does not lose any taxes. The abatement is on the future taxes of the investment in the property. So at no point in time will the community be collecting less money in property taxes from the business. What the incentive is on is the investment in the property. So if you have vacancy and someone willing to invest, you abate that future tax for the investment now. The thing is, with the tax incentive program, there is an end date, and you can structure the percentages so that in 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, however long that TIF is, you begin collecting more tax revenue based upon the investment that you incentivize right now. That's where we have to be looking, especially on properties like the CAS building, which has been empty for a long time and probably could do with some new investment to increase the value there. That's
Absolutely.
just my opinion.
I couldn't agree with you more, Rob. Couldn't
Yeah,
agree
Rob,
with you more.
And you're gonna have to deliver that message loud and clear, because I think that's, the knee-jerk reaction against it.
Yep.
So that's gonna be really important.
Massachusetts is different than a lot of states, but this isn't a tax credit. It's a bit of an abatement, but at no point in time does it lower the tax coming into the town. That's, I think, the thing that if people grasp, they support.
Well, not only that, then you got to look at the trickle down economics of it. If you have a building with 500 people in it, not everybody's going to bring their lunch. They're going to need to go to the little restaurant next door that's hopefully still there. They're going to go get gas. They're going to buy snacks. They're going to, everything's going to, the more we can have local, the more we can do. So that's definitely coming up on a very soon agenda.
Excellent.
So I'm actually glad for the healthy conversation we just had. So I see that it's definitely worthwhile for all of us. So that is all I had, I believe, for my chair report. And there's more that I'm going to let Marika get into on her microenterprise grant and shared streets and spaces grant status. I'll pipe in, I'm sure, a little bit on that one later. So Marika, if you'd like to give yours. I think you're muted, which I will, because now my dogs are barking again.
Do you have any member reports first? I don't know if anyone else.
Just a really quick one. I think I already kind of felt, I think I spoke earlier about the master plan committee's meeting last night, and that was very good. If anyone has more questions on that, I'm happy to answer them. But it was really good, productive meeting, and I'm going to be following up with Judith Watson from that committee to talk more about sort of the downtown piece of it. So more to come on that. But also just a really, really quick, Chris Robbins invited me to speak to the Rotary Club last night, and so Marika put together an awesome presentation, and I spent, it was only supposed to be 20 minutes. I spent over an hour with them last night. Really great group, and they were, again, just really excited about the potential. They had a lot of good questions, and it was a really just nice conversation. Their group is actually very in tune. A lot of people knew about things that were going on in Ashland and Marlborough and other towns around us from an economic development standpoint, and we're curious as to what we were doing and why we seemed to be doing less than other communities in certain ways. And they were very excited about the downtown project and had a lot of really good questions and points. So I think part of our messaging now going forward as we're talking to new people about this is to make sure we're getting people to town meeting, because at the end of the day, if we're going to take this step on the bylaw, which I think is really critical, we're going to need enough people to show up to make sure we can get 2/3 of a vote. So I pitched that a little bit too, but it was great. It was a lot of fun, a nice group of people to talk to. So, and they seem really engaged. So it was good. And they're interested too, because the Rotary Club sponsors a lot of the events that we, normally under normal circumstances do downtown, like the pumpkin lighting and the food trucks that they did last year. That was Rotary Club. So that that's right up their alley, and they recognize that how integral the downtown is to to the community. And they had a lot of really good ideas about expanding the pumpkin lighting next year to incorporate local businesses and have local businesses kind of set something up or give away little things or something like that. So they were really excited about utilizing the downtown in a more community friendly way. That's all.
You're muted, John.
You're muted.
Sorry. So I don't know if anybody's had a chance yet to go to the new bagel places at the Red Barns. I've been to both. I'm hooked. Oh my God, are those
They're
good
good.
bagels?
Yeah.
So I can't recommend them enough. Also, I went to Ground Effects, which is a brewery in Hudson last night, and the Kith and Kin food truck was out there. I don't know if you guys have ever had their burger or their steak bomb or their French fries. Highly recommend them. And if we ever have food trucks out, we should try to get Kith and Kin's food truck out, because wow.
Yeah. Can you start a list, John?
I have.
Okay, cool.
I have. I love going to food trucks, hot dog trucks, all that stuff. As you can tell by looking at me, I'm all about food. So yeah.
Marika,
Anyway.
did you know that there's a
Well,
new consignment shop opening downtown?
Sorry, say that again.
You know, there's a
I
new
had heard about
high-end consignment shop opening where I think it's where the English Garden was, but in that building, or where number 9 was.
Yes, I heard. Well, I spoke to Lamy Insurance, and they told me it was rented out because I had another inquiry, someone looking for space, but they didn't want to tell me what kind of business it was. So
It's
Yeah.
Karen Pym. She's a local resident, and I guess it's going to be a high-end consignment, but I'm not exactly sure. That's what I've heard. I have not heard that directly from
I
her,
heard.
but I do know it's Miss Pym, and she's a wonderful woman. And I hope they do really well, and I can't wait for them to open and go in and say hi and check it out.
I think it opens this weekend.
Does it really? That's great.
I think
So-
it's by appointment only.
Yep,
So
initially. Yep.
All right. Any more member comments or feedbacks? Except for my dog. Again, I apologize. Marika, do you want?
Yeah, so quick update. I'll start with the micro enterprise grant. We just finished closed round 2. So Southborough, we had, I forget now how many applications we had, but we have 7. We had 7 successful applications. So companies that were successful in receiving the grant. They're still awaiting the money, but they've been approved. A lot of communities, I mean, we all have kind of the same situation. We all have money left, except for one of the 23 communities. They've completely given out everything. So round 3 will be on a rolling basis for as long as we, as long as we have the money, until the money runs out, basically. So I'm still trying to approach businesses that I think might be eligible. I might contact the Main Street Bank and Middlesex Savings Bank, maybe if they have clients who they feel would be eligible to contact them. So that's ongoing, but it's really great to have this these 23 communities do it together. We have a meeting every Wednesday, and we get information also from MGCC. They had 2 other loans or grant programs open. They just closed on the 17th of November, but it gave me an opportunity to to get that information out. And I know several small businesses applied for those programs as well. But they are heavily oversubscribed, so we'll just have to wait and see if they are successful. That's I don't know if anyone has questions on the micro enterprise grant. John, you're still muted.
It's because of my damn dog. Just so you know, she's quiet now, so I'm not going to mute myself. So have they changed the criteria for
So they
acceptance
haven't
for it
changed
yet?
criteria, but they did. Yeah, you can submit your income, your 2020 income. It just requires some extra documentation that you need to submit. So,
And you're saying this is going to be a rolling application. Do you know how long that'll last? Until the money's gone, correct?
till the money's gone, and I think that we have it till December 21.
Now, can people reapply for it again afterwards if
So that
if it's still
question was
there?
raised, and yeah, so initially they said they can reapply, but only if they use the grant for different purposes. So they can't use it for the same thing that they applied the first time. But they were going to double check that because they thought that they would be able to apply again.
So say, for instance, say they used it for the first time, they applied for operating expense, rent, equipment leases, things like that, and they got it. And then the next time they wanted to use it for payroll, it can be used for that, right? So that's excellent. That's good news. Maybe we should let people know that as well. That
I'm just waiting. We're waiting for confirmation. So I'll probably know that by next Wednesday for sure. They were just going to double check that with
Yeah, and maybe there's businesses that have changed owners or did something different. Maybe something's different now that they'll be more able to apply and get it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe, I don't know. I mean, that depends, but that's up to the businesses, right? But those rules haven't changed. But I'm just trying to still see, if we have some more businesses that we are currently unaware of that are micro, enterprise. So, yeah.
Can anybody do anything to help you with that? Do you need any help trying to find
I mean,
that? Anything I can reach out
if you
to?
come across people, or if you, just be aware that this is available, and if you're, you can direct people to me, and then they can check if they're eligible.
Okay.
I mean, even for home businesses, like anything. All right. So the next update is for the Shared Streets and Spaces grant project. So John and I are having a lot of fun. Um,
Never
um,
thought it'd be so hard to give away stuff.
Yes, so it's kind of been a challenge to source the equipment because everyone wants the same equipment, the tents and the heaters. And then secondly, but I mean, I think we're making good progress. So it's a long story, but we did buy tents and we decided that, I mean, I don't want to get into the technical details, but the tents will be available. The season is kind of ending. So I think the restaurants have decided that they will probably take down the tents and start again in the spring and set them up.
One of them is set up behind the westbound Red Barn, New York Bagel, and they have a 10 by 20 tent that they're actively using now, and it's set up. And people were out there when I was there this weekend. It was nice.
Yeah, so they'll keep that out there, and I just delivered 3 outdoor heaters to them because they get busy at certain times, and they would want to direct people to wait outside, and that's when they're going to use those heaters. So they're making good use of the equipment. And then Tommaso and Ola will have the bigger tents with the side panels, which they will start using in the spring. I'm still waiting for 4 electric heaters that were ordered. I mean, to source these things locally has become impossible. So we had to go through Amazon. They should arrive before the end of this month. And they'll be ready for use by Ola and Tommaso as well. We placed planters in downtown, or I should say Karen was very helpful and her crew with putting them there and filling them with gravel. And the garden club has been involved filling them with potting mix, and they'll design and plant them. We are actually in the process of ordering picnic tables and bike racks. The problem is that nobody knows. We wanted to put a picnic table and a bike rack in the Triangle Park near Southville. That piece of land is owned by the town, but I'm not sure. Nobody seems to know who can decide if we can put a picnic table there. So right now, I think the idea is to not put a picnic table there because it's just going to take too long. But definitely a bike rack. And I have approval from the Baltus family who own House of Pizza and that green space in downtown to put a picnic table there. And I have approval from the Collaborative Outpost to put a bike rack on top of their top parking lot for use for residents who want to, come to downtown on their bikes and need a place to lock the bike up. So. That's the progress so far.
One interesting note that I forgot to mention when I was talking about the master plan committee, somebody mentioned, and I know Sam's here, I don't know if I'll have more to add. There wasn't a lot of detail, but it was just the first time I had heard about it. I guess there's some talk of the Board of Selectmen putting together a bike committee to look into, things like bike lanes, which I think that's kind of, that's important for us because we keep talking about how can we get downtown without, what are other ways that we can get downtown and bring people together, and sidewalks and trails and bikes. But, having a bike lane potentially would be really helpful.
Yeah. And I think that was like initially when, the downtown initiative, we had several main objectives. And one of them was increased, pedestrian walkways, increased bike trails that would connect all the neighborhoods to downtown. So I think it's great if they can set up a committee to kind of work on that. So, and then the other portion would be the beautification, which would be like a next topic, after the design guidelines, we can tackle that. But so that's, so the project is, I need to submit a final project evaluation or report by December 1st. So I'll start putting that together and explain that, some of these things took much longer than expected. The thing is, I don't really want to wait for finally for someone to decide finally whether we can put a picnic table in the triangle or not. So maybe we should just go ahead with ordering one that we can place in downtown and the 2 bike racks, and then forget about
Absolutely.
the table.
Just a question. Are we going to be, they just have a second round of shared streets. Are we going to be applying again?
Yes, they have. I'm not sure. If we have a good project, then I don't mind applying again. But we have to have a good, a good idea.
Do you
I mean,
think,
give any-
and going off something Julie had said, do you think we could apply for funds for a feasibility study for bike lanes in the downtown? Maybe get the money to hire a consultant to do some of that stuff. So it appears like we're taking a proactive thing, but we don't actually have to come up with any entities like picnic tables or heaters or tents to find, and actually, get that money to advance one of the initiatives that maybe the selectmen want to do. I was just thinking outside of the box because they've got a whole bunch more money to give away.
I like free money.
Yep.
I like free money a lot. That's a great
I like the
idea.
idea. I mean, I'm not sure. I'll have a look at it, but my understanding was always that this grant program was for quick install projects. So I'm not sure if this, but I mean, we can try. There's no harm trying, but I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, well, the thing about the quick install is, and everyone knows this, we're getting into the winter time. So are you going to paint side crosswalks? No. Are you going to do any plantings? Are you going to do outdoor tents? Are you going to do anything outside? No. So if they have the money given away, perhaps there's the opportunity for the study to happen over the winter with the understanding that there might be a new bike committee or something that we can then integrate and say, this is for future permanent changes. That's the only thing that I could be thinking about.
Do you think we should talk to the Trails Committee and see if somehow this potential bike lane feasibility study could maybe tie in with some of their feasibility study for some of the loop trails that they're trying to get? Do you think that would be helpful or not helpful? Or
well, I don't know. It all depends upon I haven't seen, and I haven't seen if it changes. But I know one of the things that they were thinking about on the first round was downtown signage, placemaking and directions. So perhaps
Wayfinding,
feasibility study had a sign element that kind of tied in with the bike paths that we already have. You can actually have that quick return in addition to the long-range strategic plan. Yeah, and I don't know whether or not and how quick and the timing or stuff like that, because I'm kind of out of the municipal stuff now. But as long as they have a grant and we've gotten it in the past and we have had some great success with it, might as well try again.
you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
Yeah.
I agree. I'll reach out to a couple other committees too, see if they have any thoughts that might help them. I think the more they put in for it, the better, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, and Marika.
So just so you see the thundering hoofbeats that go by, that is a 80-pound sheepdog thing that I can't stop him, so I apologize.
Yeah.
Sorry,
We
Rob.
believe you, though. We believe
Yeah,
you.
Marika, if you need or want some help or just if it's got a whole bunch of moving parts and need some help on side, I can help if you'd like.
Great.
I can tell you right now, she does need help.
Thank you. Yeah.
Marika's working way more than she should be because I had to back off and say, so I only call her on work days now, but Marika works probably.
I actually set up an EDC meeting on Thanksgiving night. So I was like, are you sure you guys are meeting? I said, oh, maybe not, but anyways, yeah.
Yeah, so she
We'll all be home.
but absolutely you could help her. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate
you.
that. I am going to ask, me and Marika were talking the other day, what we were talking about is the height limits in other surrounding towns. And Suzanne and Michael, if you wouldn't mind checking with a couple of towns just to find out what their height restrictions are for buildings, like, I was thinking like similar towns like ours, and I'm thinking like a Sudbury, what else do we say, Marika? Harvard. Kind of more, the more rural towns like ours that kind of affluent-y, very similar economics and as well as aesthetics. If we could, just a couple for like Tuesday. I know Ashland's higher than us because I was in there the other day, and that mixed-use building they got downtown is 3 stories. That's got to be 35 feet anyway, I guess.
Well, that's what I think ours, the one we're proposing isn't it 40 feet in the draft?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to find out like what other towns like are, so we can say, well, this is what other towns with similar downtowns, like the Harvard, the downtown Sudbury, the downtown, small towns like Southborough.
Is
And I think
Westboro
we need to
too?
remember when we're,
Oh, sorry. Is Westboro
No, go ahead.
too big? compared-
Westboro's not, they're so different than us. If you go to their downtown, they're more like a Marlboro, more like a Hudson, more like that
Yeah.
cityscape downtown. I'm trying to find like more of the rural downtowns, the Grottons, the Harvard,
Hamilton is a
the
big one.
Hamilton,
Hamilton.
things like that, just so we can see, so we can tell people, these are what similar towns are like ours and what their height limits are.
Yeah,
I'm just
I-
curious for myself as well.
Yeah, but
Me
didn't
too.
Mike make a very good point in the last meeting that there are other limiting factors like green space and parcel size, that even if they do have the flexibility to go up to 4 stories, that it's not going to happen based upon kind of those other limiting factors. So it's just the flexibility that it could allow should a developer be able to put a couple parcels together. I mean, I don't
Don't think
know.
we need to leave it as stands. Never mind then.
No, I
and
just,
think it's helpful, but I also think that, we shouldn't, I think it's helpful as a reference point to see what other towns are doing, but I think we should also keep in mind, if you go back and look at those pictures that are in the lovely packet that Marika put together, some of those buildings are really tall. The one that was the former high school looks like it's 3 or maybe 3.5, 4 stories. Like it's tall. So I know some people were commenting that, tall is not right. And again, maybe it's not, but historically we have been comfortable with tall. So it's just something to think about.
I just think it'd be, for me, I was just thinking it would be good to give them a visual to say, well, if you look at downtown blah, those
Mhm.
buildings are X.
Yeah.
And be able to
And
see,
they-
because,
Height restriction is Y.
Yeah.
or something.
yeah, just information. That was just what I was thinking.
That's fine.
And that's pretty much,
Anything else?
is that it for your coordinator's report, Marika?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Wow. I have on the agenda to approval of minutes for October 14th, 23rd, and 29th.
Yeah, just 14 and 29.
Okay, I thought I lost the 23rd somewhere
Oh.
on my desk, and I'm like, I don't see it.
No.
So has anybody had a chance to take a look at the minutes from the 14th and 29th? The 23rd, was that our, was that the,
No, that was like the short meeting that.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be doing those minutes, but next meeting I'll have to.
Do we have to do minutes for the joint meeting with the selectmen as well? Just minutes, I think we can just put joint meeting with selectmen, and that
Yeah.
would be, that covers it, correct?
Yeah, that's right. We don't have to write separate minutes.
Okay.
I'm actually, I'm done with my update. What else?
Sam just put that 35 feet is a common building height in an area of town, so.
That's what Harvard is. I just looked it up.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Well, you guys are fast. So, all right, since we're done with that, moving on to the next item on the agenda, approval of minutes. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at the minutes? And if they have, does anybody have any changes or anything to them? Or does anybody want to make a motion to accept as written?
So moved.
Okay, so I have a motion to accept as written for the minutes for the 14th and 29th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a second. Roll call vote. I'll do it as I see it again. Michael, you've moved up. Mr. Moorhead.
Yes.
Suzanne.
Yes.
Julie.
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
And myself, aye. So it passes unanimously. Do we have any other business? Unfinished business that we want to talk about?
Actually, if I can bring up one thing, maybe I should have put on about the MWRTA representative.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I forgot about that. Thank you for bringing that up. So Mr. Healy sent off a thing that Ms. Bartolini was our MWRTA rep for the town in the past. They meet quarterly. We were asked if anybody from the EDC would be interested in doing it. I guess I can if nobody else wants to, but I really would love it if somebody from this committee could be involved on it. My thought is we meaning me, that's been one of my big things that I'd love to get in town is more public transportation. And I think if we had an active role in that, would have a better chance of getting that and what we need. I do know that there was somebody was interested in 250 Worcester Turnpike Road there. That is the CAS building, but they needed public transportation within, what was it, a mile or a half mile? Half a mile. So we'd need to try to get a bus route to come from the train station to there if we could, to get them in. And they wanted, what, 15 or 30,000 square feet. And we're in the cut, but we are going after it. So again, I'd love for somebody to be involved in it from this committee if possible. I understand that everybody's bandwidth is getting thinner by the day. I can relate. But if anybody has, it's once a quarter. If they could make the time, I have no idea. It could be a 10-hour meeting once a quarter. I don't know if it's a 10-minute meeting. I know nothing about it. But
if anyone does, unfortunately, I can't, John, I'm sorry about that. But,
no,
but
I get it.
Who does get involved, I think should reach out to either or both of Kathy Bartolini and or Dave McKay, because Dave used to go to all those meetings, and Kathy, I think that was like her former job or something. Like, I think she worked in that field for a while, so she's very well versed and was very involved when she was on this committee, and Dave McKay was very involved with that. So whoever takes on this role should certainly, I'm sure Dave would be happy to talk to anybody about it. So
maybe we can get Dave back on the committee and make him do it. So, anyway, continue, but no.
I would love nothing more.
But I figured I'd ask if anybody, think about it. You don't have to let me know now. But if you can, that's great. Let me know later on. And if you can't, I understand. And
So what we used to do in Billerica, when a member was not there, we would nominate them for it. What about Chris Robbins? And I'm just partially kidding.
well, I think that's how I became chair. So be there, be chair, isn't that how it goes? So yeah, I'll ask Chris. I think he'd be good at it and be, just to follow up. I'll reach out to Kathy myself and see what kind of a time it takes and things like that. But
yeah, and Dave would be a resource for that too, because I know he went to all those meetings.
And I just think with what we're trying to accomplish on Route 9 and what we have ahead of us for, trying to get these buildings filled and leased, I think transportation and public transportation is going to be a key aspect of it. So it'd be in our best interest to have some type of an input. So anyway, Anything else from anybody? Nope.
One other thing, maybe, I mean, if there's nothing else, can we figure out when we should have our next EDC meeting?
Well, our next one is what, Tuesday, right? Joint meeting with the
The next
selectmen,
meeting, our joint meeting is on Tuesday, the 24th.
which is
But maybe
Tuesday.
after that, see when we need another meeting.
Should we wait and see how that meeting goes and then figure out when it, because we might have action items. I mean, we could do, you want to do 2 weeks from Thanksgiving? Or I don't want to get too close to the holidays. And I think,
Yeah, I think 2 weeks from Thanksgiving is okay, because I think that's still,
because Hanukkah
I think
starts
that's still early.
the 16th-ish.
No, it starts earlier. I think it starts like the
On the
10th or
10th.
something.
I wanna-
But I mean,
I want to make sure that we are
I mean,
respectful
it
to all
goes
holidays.
for 8 nights. I think it's probably okay. It's not a crazy
Well-
religious holiday.
The 10th is 2 weeks from Thanksgiving.
So maybe we can do it, what's the 9th? We can do,
That's Wednesday.
would anybody be available for Wednesday, the 9th? Or is that pushing too far?
Wednesday, we're good.
Again, I'd rather not do it on any holidays if
Yeah.
Let me look up when I think it starts the 10th.
Why don't
I can
we
look it up.
tentatively look at the week of the 8th or 9th, the Tuesday, the 8th or 9th, is it? Then
Yeah, it
see what's
starts
available.
It starts December 10th.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would not be able to do the 9th. That's one thing I can say.
Oh, that's one of your standard bill record meetings. You
No,
do
no,
those,
no.
right?
It's I'm on the board of Access Television Group.
Oh, cool.
So I could do the 8th. That's my preference. If
You could do it. You
I
know
could
what?
do
Let's do the 8th then, because I think on the 8th, what I want to put on is the TIF discussion.
So the 8th is a Tuesday, you mean? Can we do it?
Unless the selectmen are meeting on that day, and
Yeah.
if it's 2 weeks from
Oh.
Tuesday, that's going to be there. I don't know if we
Yeah.
can meet on the same night as the selectmen, but in case they want us, that's probably not if they're going to be talking anything about the downtown, so we probably won't want to have it on the same night as the selectmen.
And what about Friday morning? I don't know if people,
But
Which
that's
is the-
during Hanukkah.
that's also, yeah, okay.
that's fine. Hanukkah, you celebrate the evening.
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. Well, as long as you don't think that would, I just don't want to upset anyone. I don't know if are we
more than
allowed to
fine.
are we allowed to have meetings on holidays like that? I didn't know if there was certain times that you,
It's that Hanukkah is fine.
okay. So Friday,
Trust me.
okay. All right.
So the 11th, Friday,
Friday the 11th then.
what, early?
What's the easiest for
Morning.
everybody with kids in the morning?
8:15.
8:15? 8:15 works for me because we usually have the Shopsy meetings. 8, oh, you know what? Hang on. Stand by now. I think I may have a Shopsy meeting that day. Let me just check. I apologize for.
I mean, I could do earlier or later too. It doesn't, just that my kids get on the,
Plus.
I am realizing I am on way too many committees and boards, and I'm getting them all confused. Okay, I have one at 8 o'clock on December 11th in the morning. Is that what we were just talking about?
Yep.
So, yeah, nope, I can't make 8 o'clock on Friday because I have a Shopsy meeting.
okay.
How about December 4th? The week, like an earlier week before that.
2 weeks
Sure.
from tomorrow.
Yeah, I have I think I'm good on that one. Yeah.
So that's kind of a week and a half after the 24th.
Yeah, let's do that then.
would we be doing
Um,
that at like 8:15? Because I'd have a hard stop at 9:30.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think in an hour we can talk a lot about it and get a lot covered. And I'll send out the draft documents that I have from Northborough, Westborough, and Marlborough that I got. Because Marlborough, the one that they just did, that's the one that Suzanne sent me. And I actually pulled it from their agenda and got all the contract and all that stuff. And they locked that up for, I think, till 2035, 2036.
2036, I think.
Yeah. So, and I think it's, what was it, 480 employees minimum? It was huge.
Well, I think they're bringing 75 to Marlboro.
Okay. I thought it was bigger than that.
Their whole company is like 450, but there's some room to grow, I think. But it's
Okay.
is that the biotech company? I've been so involved in so many different conversations this week. I don't even.
Yeah, it was the biotech one for the fillers. So anyway,
It's all biotech right now. That's all that's happening.
all I know is you started a whole snowball effect, and I think I sent, I don't know,
I'm good at that.
I sent like 8 or 10 emails out to Marika and Selectmen, and but it was a nice distraction from tents, so thank you for that. Anyway, all right.
Mr. Brun, are we all set?
Yep, we just need a motion to adjourn, and we've got the next meeting set for the 4th. Is that what you said, Marika?
Yes.
So moved.
Yeah, for the 4th.
Okay, perfect. And so, thank you, everybody. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second? All right, roll call vote for adjournment. Michael,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Julie,
Yep.
and myself, aye. Any public comment before I say that? I apologize. I just want to make sure that nobody has anything left to say. I don't see Sam's the only one here, and he doesn't have his hand up, so I think we are good. So we are adjourned at 8:34. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.